How's it going, everybody? My name is DuShaun Williams. Here, what? I'll redo it again.
You got nothing.
How's it going, everybody? My name is DuShaun Williams here at GDC for Gaming Over 30. I'm here with Emma Anderson, who I really want to get to know a little bit more than I have been all week. But the first question I'm going to have to ask you, just to break the ice a little bit, what was the last game you played?
Last game I played, okay. So before I came to GDC, I want to say it was High on Life.
Oh, High on Life.
Yeah.
Nice. Got a chance to play that too. What'd you think about it?
I got very distracted, and I did not complete the game or even get near it because I was watching, I think, TV in the house. And I was just watching whatever movies happened to play and random things showed up. So I didn't get very far.
Not supposed to put TV over a game.
Yeah, well, they actually put 3 like B films in the game. You can sit in the cinema.
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
No, that was actually kind of weird quirk with it. It was just like, this is actually like film.
I talked a little bit with some people that worked on it, and they said it was one of their favorite things they added.
Yeah, because I was sitting there like, this isn't actual. This is gonna be a full
Oh, it's
film.
a full movie.
So, how old are you?
24.
24. Nice, that's nice. And right now you're a student at SMU Guildhall, correct?
Yes.
So
I graduate in 1 month. So.
Oh, so you're already at the end of your journey as a program manager, if I remember right, or product?
Basically, I'm a producer, so same thing.
Well,
depending where you are and depending what the title is, the place you use.
Yeah, don't be afraid to correct me. If producer what it is, be on with producer.
Right now, producer, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty exciting. And from what I understand about Guildhall and stuff, there's actually a lot of nice projects that you work on and everything. But I also heard that it's very hard and taxing, so I gotta ask, do you have time for like personal gaming on? I know you say you get distracted, but it's like, do you have time to actually play games for just yourself?
It depends. So starting in the beginning, it's very strict coursework and a lot to do. But the closer that you get to looking for a career, the coursework does kind of back off enough so you have time outside of class to work on your portfolio and applications and things like that. And if you're me, you do both. You do applications and then you play games.
So were you really into games when you were younger?
Yeah, so growing up, my dad played a lot of Unreal Tournament, especially when my mom wasn't around. And so I got to sit in his lap and watch and say, Daddy, you missed the bad guy over there. And later, when I grew up enough, he'd play Flat Out, and I got to press the Nitro button, which was Shift.
Yeah.
And on like straightaways, basically, he would tell me to press Shift. And then eventually, I got promoted to being able to drive the car and things.
So soon, he was just kind of getting you used to like the basics, or like the core of it. Now it's like, now it is.
Yeah. So we played together for a long time. That was kind of our thing.
So it's actually been a big part of your life, especially kind of growing up.
Yeah, for sure. Like, vividly remember the first game that I played all the way through and played like with my dad was Portal. He was really impressed that I could play. I think I was, the lights went out. So yeah, we played Portal. We played Portal all the way through. He sat next to me, he didn't help me, but he liked to watch me come up with solutions and things.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the family bonding moment, right? So my dad worked a lot. He did everything to support us. And when he was home, how did he connect with the kids, you know? And that was kind of his way of connecting with us. We'd play things like Myst, Portal, like puzzles, to solve things together.
Nice. So was that the reason why you got the games? Or was there another reason why you wanted to pursue it as a career?
I think it definitely helped inspire me. One of the best part about making games is my dad playing my games because he gets so excited about the little things. There was a version of a game I most recently released where I was the proxy voice actress.
Yeah.
So as he was playing through, it was my voice. And on the playtest video, he's sitting there giggling like a kid every time that it comes on with me speaking. And he had a great time. We played the game for like 6 straight hours, and everyone who's watching the playtest is like, please, tester, stop. But we didn't want to stop him because he was having a good time and we were enjoying watching him. So
your dad was pretty much a big part of almost everything, even now.
Yeah. It was so like growing up, my parents were very strict. They want us to succeed, me and my sibling. So everything was regimented, and then there was games, and that was kind of the fun thing that we did together. So
with kind of how, you know, your really close relationship with gaming and stuff now, and now getting to your adult life, What are some games that you've played that kind of really started to change your perspective on things? Like I know you probably played a lot of games now, but what is one game that you really connected in and actually kind of gave you a different perspective of life, really?
So there's a couple that are influential to me. So the first one is actually Horizon Zero Dawn. There's a portion where Aloy turns down the leader of the Karja as like a date, a partner, or anything like that. And the way that it was worded was so eloquent that I kind of just sat back and I was like, that is something that I should use when I need to turn somebody down. I think I looked it up and then wrote it down. And so that was an interesting, influential moment. But the game that moved me more emotionally is Cyberpunk 2077.
Nice.
Actually.
We talked about it a few times.
Yeah, we did.
You know a lot about
I can go super into detail about it, but I finished it. When I was done, I cried the entire way through the credits. And then when the credits were done, I sat there in silence and stared at the screen for an hour and did nothing but like think about what I just went through. The fact that that game had taken me on such a journey, like that it moved me emotionally, it kind of like put my brain on hold because I was processing everything that happened. So I did every side quest, I did every single thing you could do in the entire game before doing the ending. And that was...
It was nice, it really was. And even for me, like a lot of the side quests in the game are really nice, and it was great to be able to kind of attend a lot of the talks of CD Projekt Red, kind of going through it and just how they were kind of setting stuff up, and just realized like, oh, a lot of stuff is really methodical. Like,
I didn't catch any of their narrative ones, but I would have loved to.
Yeah.
I'll watch them on the fault.
I would highly recommend it, because I think they did a really good job of, planning out stories. How did they kind of like building blocked a lot of stuff, and then like,
I would be interested in how they constructed intimate moments. Like, you ride in the car with NPCs a lot, and they talk to you while they're driving or while you're driving. And that's not something I've seen in a lot of games before, but it's something that we do every day. So it felt very close when you're in those moments, looking at the character next to you and talking to them. And then the rest of the drive when you're done and just kind of sitting back and taking in the city through the windows and riding with them. I think they crafted some really beautiful moments.
The scripting tools that they made were really nice for a lot of that stuff, so I won't really spoil that for you. I do highly recommend you look at their narrative stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Because they did, when you lay it out and stuff, because I was actually comparing the one between Horizon Forbidden West and how they did it, and they were so vastly different from each other.
Really?
Because one kind of just thought about it as like, oh, we have a really good way of like actually building the stories, but we have to also make sure, but we also have to make sure that they like, because they're like Horizon Forbidden West had 28 side quests. And they had to make sure that it didn't really kind of collide too much with the main story. However, they also made sure that they had notes on how Aloy was, where was she in the journey. So those nuances and stuff had to actually be in the story, so that way they kind of made sense of how to flow. Versus Cyberpunk was like, we are 100% non-linear.
Yeah.
That you could do pretty much anything besides like the main stuff at any given time, at any different place, and they all have to be really separate, but they have so many branching stuff. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yes, for sure. So I guess the difference with Horizon Forbidden West is Aloy is the spine. She holds it all together, and they had to write around her, while Cyberpunk, they're writing around you. They're writing about what you want to do, what you care about, the problems in Night City that you want to learn and solve or ignore, and it's your story to craft versus you experiencing a story through another character.
And so with like that itself, like kind of understanding a lot of that, what makes you want to go into more of a producer role rather than a design role?
I like executing the plan more than I like coming up with the concept, the idea. I like to lead discussions with those who are really creative and outgoing. The narrative designers, the people who have the ideas, I enjoy working with because I have power to bring their ideas to fruition, which is not something that everybody has. So it's exciting to have that role, because I think you may have noticed this in the narrative talks. If you don't have a strong backbone, it can be all over.
Yeah.
So the exciting part about being a producer is the moment when it all falls into place, when you take something that feels like chaos and it finally hits its stride. That's why I prefer to do it, at least. I mean, it's exciting too, because you can be involved in the process, you can be around for the process and know what's going on. But at the same time, I don't have the pressure of generating unique content, I suppose.
Now, I do understand that. It hits a little home, because I do understand that kind of handling, when to actually kind of do content, but also how much of it can you create yourself. There's always pressure when it's like, I really want to, there's a story in my head, but I just can't, there's too many holes and it's hard for me to fill them personally. But if I'm able to kind of bring a team, kind of work things out and be able to understand everybody's individual points, then I can at least plug the holes in someone else's creative idea to make it happen. And I really respect that. I also understand that you and some other students are working on your own open world game as one of your projects. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up and released Light of Alariya on Steam. It is a free open world RPG sort of game that we made in Unreal Engine 5 in 7 months. So we worked 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for a period of time, and there is a gap in the middle because we did have a summer break for basically part of a summer semester and all of a fall semester.
How was the experience of that, being able to kind of sit down, structure, when to actually work on it, and then 7 months, kind of putting out not just, just a game, but an open world game? Like you told me, I think earlier, about the struggles of kind of getting the teacher to buy into it.
Yeah, so, an open world student project is kind of unheard of. It's a massive undertaking and it has a lot of room for failure. So when we pitched that, there was definitely concerns because it's different. It's not the normal, third-person platformer that a team could make that quickly.
Yeah.
Or which is something simple, a puzzle game, that sort of thing. We went big, which is always scary for that kind of pitch. So what we had to do was prove that what we chose to do was the right choice. We also wanted to use Unreal Engine 5, which at that point was relatively new. There's not a lot of documentation, so if we wanted to make tools and do things with the new tech, we didn't have a lot of resources outside of just what was put out with the engine. So we had to kind of build our knowledge from scratch, which I think made a lot of the members of the team much more resourceful and definitely valuable to hire. To prove it, we made a proof of concept technology in the engine. So we basically mocked up a portion of the game. We didn't put in a lot of our own art, but we did do sort of engine tests. So how many high poly models with nanite on can we put into a world and hit play before everything crashes? How much can Lumen do going in and out of buildings? Can you see light through the seams? Is it going to sort of have an exposure problem? So we identified a lot of risks early on. We had strike teams just doing that sort of thing. It was planned so that, or I planned it so that there were people who were just testing the things we were worried about with the new tech.
Gotcha.
And then there were people developing the tools we needed to move forward. So there were people creating dialogue UI and branching dialogue UI, people who were working on enemy AI movement animations, and then porting in animations. We didn't have a lot of animators, so we had to find other ways to add kind of pre-created animations with our own art.
So pretty much do all the rigging and stuff. You had to kind of really up a lot.
Yeah, we had to figure out as we were going, and when we initially pitched the game, we had a whip as a weapon. So we actually had to prototype the physics of a whip, which is very hard. And we were using a cable component in Unreal Engine.
That's a common trick that I've heard people use.
It worked if you want like it was kind of like a frog tongue of a whip, or like a strike of lightning. We cut it. The amount of time it would take to polish it did not fit the sprint in the end. So after some hard discussions, it had to be removed.
Y'all made an executive decision, like, you know what? It was cool while it lasted.
Yeah, well, it helped that the developer working on it kind of sat back. He was like, this is as good as it's going to get, and I'm not super happy with this. And we were like, if you are tired and nobody else wants to pick it up, we should find somewhere else to pivot.
I mean, that had to be a really strong decision in and of itself. And yeah, we were able to kind of overcome that, kind of get back on course, and
Yeah.
we still got the game out.
Yep. We also cut the enemies though. Because we had like a vehicle, we had, story and puzzles and platforming and enemies and 7 months in an open world. It's a lot of requirements, Some companies take years to make something of similar scale.
Yeah, I can imagine that, especially with Unreal's like, here's all the things you could use, but it's like, yeah, but I don't know how.
We wanted to make our own. Like, we could have used Quixel assets and things like that, but that doesn't show off the talents of our artists who want jobs.
Yeah.
So they, of course, modeled everything.
Okay. Well, and I think when you put it that way, that makes more sense, because obviously you don't want to just seem like you're asset flipping, or you're just kind of, like matching and stuff and plugging the holes. You're one of the only people that I've been able to interview that kind of really go through a lot of the different stuff. And, it's nice that you're kind of really into it. And I know you already have some stuff going on and after everything, but you're also one of the ones that are actually under the age of 30, because with gaming over 30, it's implied sometimes that we're only talking about people who are older, but I've talked to a lot of people I've interviewed about when you turn 18, your life already kind of goes into different vertices, and the guardrails that you had before all of a sudden are ripped. Now, the thing that you had where you can actually be with your friends is taken away, especially because if they're trying to do something else, and a lot of things change. So my question is, how did gaming change after 18? Like now, that is like a 6-year difference in that?
I suppose. So for me, that was like early undergrad. At that point, I think it changed the fact that it wasn't as communal as it initially was. Growing up, played games at friends' houses, everyone on Wii Sports, or sitting with my dad or with my brother, things like that. But when you're in university, you don't play the same way. You play online through Discord and you play multiplayer like that. But when the dorm Wi-Fi is bad, you don't play as much. I definitely didn't for the first while after 18. I kind of picked it up after graduating again. So I graduated into the pandemic world on lockdown. At that point, I bought Animal Crossing New Horizons the day before lockdown started in Texas, because I was like, if this is gonna be a thing, I want Animal Crossing. So I got it, and then I put 500 hours into it. So.
I like how the pandemic broke the camel's back on that one.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? If I'm in it for the long run, might as well have a game that's gonna take me there.
I was, a student on a student budget, and somehow I still marched into the Walmart, and I was like, this is what I have to buy this before everything goes, shut down. So for the majority of the pandemic lockdown time, a lot of what I did was rotate between Animal Crossing and Valorant. And sometimes I would do both at the same time. So when I died in Valorant, I would pick up the Switch and play until they'd say, okay, we're back, and then I'd switch.
That's true gamer energy right there. Because I do that too for the gacha game that I play, and sometimes I'll have the other game like, okay, I'm doing something mundane here. Let me at least move this so this could do another mundane thing and to get back to active stuff over here. And it's funny that in some cases we have to overlap gaming times.
Yes.
Like instead of just making it longer, it's like, no, we have to break 8 hours into 3.
Yes. Yes. So a lot of what I did in Animal Crossing was sort of run a flower, I want to say black market ring, but it really wasn't. But it was a pretty sketchy flower ring, where I had one of every flower, and for 8 million bells, you can too. And people came and they would dig up their flowers, or I just had an island covered with flowers because for some reason I was obsessed with growing them. So I would just open the Switch and stand there while people would travel in and out and dig them up. And I was in all these Facebook groups where we were trading like island codes so people come visit for things. And I also collected a lot of the items in the game. So I'd have people come and, you know, pick up and inventory them so they could buy them in the store later. So yeah, I spent a ton of time sort of running that while people were visiting, playing Valorant and then switching.
just doing stuff on the side.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And, you know, one of the things that I've also asked too is like, especially after 18, you just say like it's not as communal anymore, and you don't have a lot of split screen kind of interaction, playing with friends on the couch and stuff. Did multiplayer games kind of shoot up for you as far as like online and everything?
So it definitely switched from, you know, couch gaming to Discord gaming, distance gaming, made a lot of friends in far places whilst playing games during the pandemic. But then after lockdown and things like that faded, it sort of shifted back to single player, playing alone, not so much streaming my screen and talking with people.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting, and I don't know if that's just part of the dynamics of my life changes at the same time, or if that's an age thing.
I think we all kind of go through it. I'm a guy who likes to just own every console, but when sometimes stuff like this, when you have a decision of this or that, the answer to me is why not both? And you know, like, I always kind of like try to like, you know, if I'm not doing one thing, I'll play another one. There's always a way to keep doing stuff. But I think that further like got me into single player games. Because the reason why I was getting a lot of the different consoles and stuff was mainly because of the exclusives that were on them. And I was like, I got a 360 just because of the Eternal Sonata at the time that came out. Like, I wasn't gonna buy it for anything else, and then I saw that game and it looked nice. I was like, okay, I'll get the Elite. I'll buy it. And then I found a way to get it on eBay for like 400 something or whatever, like low cost. Or somehow it came out lower, but it was brand new. So I'm like, okay, well, that worked out. No problems with it and everything. I think like when people make like kind of those kind of drastic changes, like it kind of creeps in. You don't really realize it. And I think that's kind of what I see the stuff is. I also used to play communal stuff, and I noticed if I'm not in a space where I can play with a lot of people, it's really difficult. Like even with Super Smash Brothers, it's like, you know, you really want to play with people who are there. Even if it's one-on-one, you don't really even think about playing it, you know, as an online game, even though you can.
It definitely has the option, but it's not the same if you're not yelling at each other. And you know, like it's something about the couch gaming that it adds a whole other level of attachment.
Yeah, we're kind of coming to the end, and you know, I really do appreciate you kind of talking about your life, and really kind of giving like a more deep story about everything. And I just have to say, the last question I want to ask you, and I ask it with everybody, how do you view gaming today?
Emotionally, conceptually?
I hate to say both, but if I had to really rely on one, I think it's really just conceptually, how does it really look to you? Because I feel like once you kind of understand, like it's a concept, and then you could build emotion on top of that.
To me, right now, games are the ultimate form of entertainment, of storytelling, of connection. Growing up, I read a lot of books. While you're reading the books, you visualize the story and you feel the emotions, and it's like you're listening. Or you watch TV shows and you're watching it, but with a game, you're putting yourself in the story and your choices in the story and your actions and your abilities. And so it's the ultimate kind of form of entertainment. I also think it's the ultimate form of community, which is what makes it strong. Because you can meet anyone anywhere and have a common strand. Even if they played the game in another language and they don't speak your language, you still experience the same story, the same visuals. There's not a lot of things like that. You know, if they translate a show, they might translate it wrong. I mean, the same with games, but you're still not part of it. It's like you just sat there, you watched somebody else's story unfold versus kind of unfurling your own. So yes, it's the ultimate form of entertainment. It's the ultimate form of storytelling and community, multiplayer. You could play a game with somebody who you've never met and who doesn't speak your language. If you both played like that game before, you understand it. There's a lot of symbols and things that are common language. I think the only not the only challenge, but the next challenge to face in the games industry is accessibility and usability. It reaches a broad audience already, but we can make adjustments to help those with disabilities, to help those with different wants and needs so that they can experience the same stories at the same levels.
So we definitely will need to be pushing for gaming from everybody in all aspects of it and stuff. Do you see that change personally?
I see it coming. It's out there. It's on the horizon. I saw on LinkedIn a demo the other day of a rig for a wheelchair character, and like bending over, picking things up and turning and forward and backward. And I had sort of a striking moment where I realized that I hadn't played as a wheelchair character before. Seeing that rig, seeing that movement, and realizing that there are people out there who don't get the chance to look at the screen and say, that is me, and I feel for that character. It kind of kept me coming deep, and I really hope whoever made that rig and setup is successful and it can be out there for others to use. David always says make room at the table, but there was something else that went with it. It's seeing yourself that helps you connect with it.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of room at the table for games, and we need to continue to welcome more, both in development and in like the active players and characters and things. Yes.
Emma, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. I hope we cross paths again and many more times in the future.
That was better.